So your quiz will be on Monday, that is 12 to 1:30. Please. Okay. And this afternoon at 12 to 1, I will be giving you a personal reflection activity that will be submitted on February 11. February 11. So that activity will be submitted on February 11. So on that activity, I will be sending or posting video presentations in our LMS, and you are going to um, reflect on the different presentations. Although 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes lang yung mga videos natin, and then you're going to reflect. Now, I'm always doing this in your class and in other classes with different subjects, kasi we have to be aware of what is happening around us, our environment, and even with regards to our locality, indigenous peoples, and peace education. No, because there are what do you call this, specific purpose. No, hindi lang taken for granted yung mga yon. Those are actually integrated in our curriculum so that we may be able to be a part of the responsibility of taking good care of our, or having responsibility on how do we steward no the environment. Okay, and even sa indigenous peoples and peace education, ayan, kailangan natin yon today. Yan. So, hindi nyo ba naririnig yung mga balita na there is a tension between the Ukraine and the Russia and Russia? Naririnig niyo yung balita na yon?
Yes, sir.
If possible, that will be, sana hindi naman, knock on wood. Okay? Na mangyari yon, of course, that will be actually very catastrophic. Hindi very kasi redundant. Catastrophic. No? Kasi it will be like World War III. No? Kasi the United States is aiding Ukraine, and even the NATO, yung mga countries that are associated with that organization. If nangyari yon, hindi lang sila ang maapektuhan, halos lahat actually ng countries. Okay? So, yun yung mga global issues na kailangan natin. Hindi pa nga tayo tapos ng pandemic, di ba? So, we have to be aware of those things. We really need to. Okay? So, for this morning, we just have to review some of the parts of this presentation, although I already discussed to you some of them. Now, there are additional informations that are embedded here in the file. However, I cannot find my PowerPoint presentation file. So I opted to use the PDF, no? So please bear with me, and I do hope that I am audible and the screen is readable on your end. Kindly confirm by sending a heart or a clap on your devices. Ayan, okay. Ayan. So thank you so much for your response. So from time to time, if you have a question or you have any addition to the things that I am telling, don't hesitate to open your microphones, no, for those cases. Okay. So wait lang. Let me just check my messenger because some of your classmates are chatting. Okay. Wait lang. Okay. I think their internet connectivity is restored. Magre-reconnect lang daw sila. Okay. So for this morning, we're going to discuss on the different analytical process. And if we have time, we will be discussing the analytical balance. Although I actually, nag-prepare pala ako ng video regarding that. So if we do not have, kung kulang yung time natin, kasi hindi naman pwedeng dire-diretsong 2 hours, 3 hours yung discussion natin because it's very, ano, it's information overload on your part. So that's why from time to time, I um what do you call this? I sometimes tell you stories or experiences just to pause for a while, and then ayun, bang, let's do it. Let's go again. Ganon. So ayun. So for this morning, we're going to discuss about the analytical process and even some of the roles of analytical chemistry. Yung roles na sinasabi ko, you will be visualizing that when you will be watching the different video presentations I resorted from YouTube. So those are um, practical scenarios and even innovative scenarios that what do you call this? Paano na ang kalagayan natin and ano na yung mga innovative solutions, mga long-term solutions that um, this scientists or organizations are proposing to solve this certain global issue, perhaps. No, hindi 'yun basta-bastang isang solution lang tapos na ang problema. No, kasi one problem may be connected with one another. So that's why ayan, step by step, um, what they call this? Step by step, tawag nito, hindi 'yun padalos-dalos, gano'n. So you will see later on how innovative and um, important these solutions are to our existing um, situations. Okay. So we already established the definitions of what an analytical chemistry is, no? With regards to how we characterize matter in terms of qualitative and quantitative, right? So hindi lang din natatapos doon yung definition. So we seek ever improved means of measuring chemical composition. Okay? So, of course, sabi ko nga sa inyo last time, that's both natural and artificial materials. And of course, there is a collection of techniques that is being used to qualify and quantify data. Meaning to say, identify what the substance is or what is in the sample and how much compound or substance is present in the sample. So ganun. So there are various techniques that will be presented later on. However, next meeting I will also be sending you list and information that is in a PDF format. So it's just like a summary of the different techniques. So I will also be putting the link of where you can get references with regards to that technique, no, which you will be reporting later on finals. Next week also you will be grouped. Okay, so I will be grouping you kasi 50 kayo, so you will be divided into 5 groups, so 10 members each. So each member should have a contribution to the oral presentation, or even siguro gawin nating 10 so that 5 members in a group. No, kasi medyo marami yung techniques na um, maidi-discuss at ire-report natin. Okay? So, ayan, just a general overview on what analytical chemistry is the science of chemical measurement. So there are basic questions. There are actually four basic questions: what, how, where, ganyan. So you will be seeing that later on. So these are types of questions as in analytical chemistry, although it is very general in nature. Yeah. So what is in the sample? It pertains to qualitative analysis. How much is in the sample? That's quantitative analysis. And sabi ko nga, um, collection of techniques are used in performing analysis or analysis. Okay? Hindi lang iisa or dalawa. Actually, collection nga marami. So, either you use the different wet chemical methods or instrumental methods like spectrometry, spectroscopy, and among others. Excuse me. Okay. And of course, in our subject, no, the qualitative and quantitative chemistry or analytical chemistry actually provides these tools and methods that are needed for us to um, take a look, not only in a large scale but in a molecular scale, meaning to say the components of the sample, hindi lang for example blood yun o blood na lang yun. You have to look further, ayan, molecular level, the different composition, what makes blood, or what is the composition, or ano ba yung mga components ng blood, no, for that matter. So it's not only on a large scale, but of course in a micro or molecular scale. So these are the basic four basic questions that we need to respond when we do analysis. Okay, what, where, how much, no, what's the arrangement of structure or form, what's the form. No, ito mga ito, these are actually pertaining to the molecular counterpart already. So the structure, the arrangement, and even the form of that compound. Wait lang, ano, I just need to respond to Ma'am Dean. Okay, sorry for the interruption. They are actually asking me kung okay din ang connection ko. Okay naman dito sa Solano. Ay, there is a maintenance ata sa Bayombong kasi kaya nagkakaroon sila ng unexpected internet connectivity error. So are you still with me? Can you hear me? Can you see me clearly and the presentation is readable?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you so much for your response. Ayan. So you can also see here in the image, although the image is blocking some of the bullets there, this is actually a ayan, sabi nga, may maintenance daw sa Bayambong. Ayan, so this image actually pertains to the sample that is already, this is actually the um, analyzed sample already. So what is it? How much is there? How pure is it? And what are the impurities? So hindi lang yung how pure is it, 100% pure, 48.2% of this element is present here. Ganun. Hindi lang yon, but actually all of the components that are present in the sample, including impurities. Okay, impurities in the sense that these are not, or these constituents or components are not necessarily needed for performing the analysis. Okay, ganon. Okay, I think I hope you got my point. So in that analysis, so after analyzing the sample, meron kasi tayong tinatawag na selective and specific reaction, which will be discussed later on, or specific test and selective test. Okay, so what I am pertaining to here, we are not only um, analyzing, for example, we need to analyze um, how or what are the different elements, compounds, or ions for that sake that is found in the sample. So it's not only pinpointing one, although meron tayong test na it only pertains to the substance of interest or subject of interest. So ang lumalabas lang doon sa analysis is yung nade-detect niya yung, for example, test of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates lang ang matetest. The other macromolecules like proteins, lipids, etc. So hindi na yun nade-detect. So very specific for tests of carbohydrates only. So carbohydrates are only being detected. Of course, with the qualitative descriptions or the indications. So for example, the reaction turns blue perhaps, no, with the addition of this reagent. So that indication means there is a carbohydrate present in the urine or sample for that matter. Okay, so ganon. How pure and even what are the impurities. If the um, clients or the client requires no um, listing um, the other components that may be present in the sample. Okay, so these are just differentiation when it comes to qualitative and quantitative analysis. Although I already discussed to you this, um, lagi niyong tatandaan 'pag qualitative, ano ang meron doon. 'Pag quantitative naman, ano 'yon, hindi naman magkano 'yon. Ano yung Tagalog doon ng how much? Ilan, tama? Tama ba yung Tagalog term ko? Ilan,
Yes.
oo 'yun. Kasi kung, yeah, ilan ang bibilhin mo, or 'di ba, hindi naman natin sinasabi na magkano ang bibilhin mo, gano'n. Magkano ang bibilhin mo. So ilan ang meron doon sa sample na yun. So the how much 'pag quantity, 'pag qualitative naman what, no? What is in a sample. Okay? So these are often used together, mostly actually. So the other analysis, for example, you perform qualitative analysis, actually you will also perform quantitative analysis. So if it requires only quantitative analysis, before you do quantitative analysis, you have to know what is the sample, what are the components of the sample. Because if you're just performing quantitative analysis, of course, there are certain um, situations wherein the sample is a biohazard, meaning to say it may be toxic, it may be radioactive for that matter. So before anything else, before performing rigid and even complex analysis to a certain sample, you have or we have to um, what they call this, describe the sample, ano yung characteristic ng sample before performing further analysis. No, it's our own protection. So laging magkasama yung dalawang analysis na ito, yung dalawang analysis na ito. Okay, and the qualitative analysis deals with identification of elements, ions, or compounds present in a sample. No, hindi yan present. Present in a sample. So, for example, tawag nito, yung sample mo, you want to determine whether there is a flavonoid or natural products, essential oils, etc., you have to perform qualitative analysis. Okay, and there are certain instrumentations or methods and even tools that we need to perform for identifying the different elements, ions, ano pa, and certain compounds like flavonoids, limonella, oxalate, EDTA, whatever, no? Okay? There are specific methods and tools for those tests. Okay? Kaya sa biochem nyo later on, napakaraming tests. Test for carbohydrates, test for proteins, test for albumin, and so on and so forth. You will um, understand what I am telling later if you are enrolled. You will be enrolled in biochemistry for medical laboratory. For medical laboratory science. Kunanan sa nga subject yo. Yon. So, yon. Um, uh, sabi ko nga sa inyo last time, our subject, analytical chemistry, um, sometimes it is called as the science, the mother of all sciences because it provides tools and procedures to perform analysis. For example, sa sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na sa biochemistry, like urinalysis, analysis, what do you call this? Blood analysis and other body fluids for that matter and so on and so forth yon. So, ang ano natin dito ay provision of methods and tools and even validation and modification. Okay? Ayan. So, this is a very basic example with regards to ayan, precipitation. Actually, this is a precipitation process that I have already discussed to you when you are enrolled in organic and organic chemistry. So it is the ito ang nangyayari dito. This is a double replacement. No? Ayan, silver nitrate and nitric acid. Okay, when mixed together, there is a precipitate, white precipitate that is observable, and that precipitate actually indicates that there is a presence of halite. So, yon. Ano ba ang nitric acid? Ano ba ang formula ng nitric acid natin ulit? Hmm. Ano ang nitric acid natin?
HNO3 po.
Okay, so that's HNO3. How about silver nitrate?
AgNO3.
Okay, so AgNO3. So for that matter, if we try to add, for example, reagents like this, silver nitrate, and nitric acid to dissolve that certain samples. Itong mga ito kasi these are used, hindi lang naman silver nitrate ang ginagamit. Meron din yung sa for complex tawag nito mga reactions, they also use yung mga lead containing um, reagents, meron din yung sodium, yung mga basic na ano lang na elements that are not necessarily explosive in nature and even dangerous or toxic when it comes to yan, mga potassium nitrate, potassium chlorate, and other reagents which indicates the presence of halide. No, ang nangyayari kasi dito, nagkakaroon ng double replacement reaction. So, the metal that is present on a certain reagent will be attached to a halide. O for example, sodium tapos chloride. Chlorine for hydrochloric acid, for example. So, ganon. Swapping of partners, di ba? Yung sa double replacement reaction natin. Yon. So, those are actually indications of the presence of halide for this example. There are also other tests no, which indicates, for example, the presence of carbohydrates. If you add this solution and it turns blue, and others like the test of albumin or protein or even nucleic acids. For example, there is a cloudy ang tawag cloud formation, silver mirroring, mga ganon. Those are actually specific indications for a specific compound or for a specific macromolecule. You will understand what I am talking all about, no, sa inyong biochemistry. Those are actually indications. There are a lot of indications for certain tests. Okay? So you will learn that later on. Okay? So for example, ganito ang result. Actually, you will be having a practical examination later on, I think, when you will be having your limited face-to-face classes. Yan. So, hindi lang sa identification of parts or yeah, sa isang sample dun sa slate or sa slide, tapos naka ano yan sa microscope, hindi lang doon. But of course, no, how do you determine whether um, this, for example, protein or this part of blood is present there, or yung test for blood, mga ganyan on a certain sample. So there are actually different indications and different tests also. Hindi iisang test. So magkakaiba yon, test for carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and even blood, no? In a certain sample, for example, in a urine, for that matter. Okay? So there are a lot of different tests. And yung mga tests na yon, they are validated and they are provision of analytical chemists. Okay, so ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na selective and specific reaction or specific test. Okay? So here, the difference is that yung isa selective in the sense that other substances are being or it is a test. Test is one that or selective reaction or test is one that can occur with other substances but exhibits a degree of preference for the substance of interest. So what is a selective test is all about? Nade-determine din niya yung other substances. But in the result, ang pinaka-highlight doon is yung substance of interest. For example, the carbohydrate or the proteins or the albumin that is present there for that matter. For specific reaction naman or test, it only occurs with the substance of interest. So if you perform this kind of test and there is no indication, ang ibig lang sabihin nun ay dalawa. Either you have an error or the sample doesn't actually contain that substance of interest that you are looking for. That's why it is very important that when performing a test or experiments for that sake, you have to either duplicate or triplicate your um, what do you call this? Duplicate or triplicate your experiment. Meaning to say, dalawa or hanggang tatlo mong uulitin yung test. Okay? Unless, yeah, ganon ang lagi when it comes to experiment. Now, even in your research, you have to duplicate or triplicate your um, experimentation. That's actually pertaining to the accuracy of data. Okay? Accuracy and precision. Yan yung reliability ng data. Kasi kung isang beses mo lang yun ginawa, it may not be reliable. So you have to perform another just to confirm, 'di ba? Okay? Kaya yung ating just like our COVID testing, like the one that I've told you last time, RT-PCR and antigen kit. The other, no, the latter, the antigen kit may be quick in giving the um, test, but it may not be very reliable, no, perhaps with the swabbing or the RT-PCR. Diba? Wait lang. Okay. So these are certain strategies that um sample strategies lang itong mga ito, although it's not very encompassing. No? For example, this sample preparation requires extractions. No, after collecting the sample, collecting, storing, and tawag nito, transporting the sample. Ayan, so you have to prepare for extraction and precipitation kasi hindi pwedeng yung sample mismo ang gagamitin for tests kasi there are specific tests that requires na, for example, the leaf, or for example, the plant sample that you got, no, or yeah, the plant sample needs to be extracted first before it's going to be tested for flavonoids, etc., essential oils, and so on and so forth, yung mga ganon. And of course, you have to precipitate it also. So there are a collection actually of basic laboratory techniques that you have to perform to prepare the sample. So makikita nyo yan mamaya pag i-present ko yung analytical process. Okay? And of course, you have to select the detectors, the equipment, the reagents that you are going to use, and even the tool, the method that we're going to use. And ayan, there are certain tests to specific functional groups. So yung mga sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, um, like the test for hydroxyl group, ano pa, yung alcohol, um, the phenol group, and even other functional groups, okay, to target the analyte. And itong technique nito, like chromatography, this is just one of the many techniques that we will be discussing, which actually separates the sample constituents. So later on in our laboratory activity, we will be, or I will be showing you one type of chromatography. So that is thin layer chromatography. So that is TLC. Okay, there are a lot of chromatography. Okay, but I will be showing you that, yung thin layer chromatography, because that is actually being performed in the laboratory. Okay, so for quantitative analysis naman, ayan, so how much? So these are some examples. Um, and take note that when expressing quantitative analysis, yon, we always have to go back with the things that we have discussed. Yung how do we express these concentrations in terms of mass, yeah, percent by mass, molarity, molality, and so on and so forth. Okay, but mostly in the laboratory, the prevalent concentration used is either percent by mass or molarity. Okay? So, yon. So, lagi nating tatandaan yung mga yun. Okay? So, these are few sample results of quantitative analysis. So, for example, an ore contains 42.88% silver by mass. Okay? Gaya nung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. And even, for example, the actual yield or the percent yield. Okay. So, for example, the chemical reaction yielded 3.22 moles of product. Okay. And so that we can understand fully how this product, okay, when it comes to it's an aqueous solution, or yeah, aqueous solution, yeah, we need to convert, no, some of this to percent by mass or even molarity, for let's say. Ayan, so kaya meron tayo dito sa third sample, the solution is 0.102 molar um, concentration of sodium chloride. So kung makikita nyo doon sa mga ano natin, dextroses natin, have you seen one already? 0.1%, 0.5%, mga ganon. Percentage naman yung iba. Percentage ang representation, the way they express in terms of mass, or yeah, mass concentration or mass percent. Okay. Ayun. So are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Hindi naman ako choppy sa inyong end.
Medyo lang.
Medyo lang or more choppy talaga? Okay pa? Audible pa ako? Okay pa yung ating audio? Am I still audible on your part?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Ayan. Okay, sige. So let us continue. When it comes to the different methods, we can actually classify them either physical or chemical methods. So these are some physical methods that we will be discussing, although some or most of which no are not actually present in the laboratory, or they cannot be performed in our university because of the lack of equipment. No, although some of which are being performed. No, I will be discussing to you later on some of the methods that are being conducted in the university. Ganyan. So although these are the physical methods. Yan. So mga physical methods, they measure the physical property like the absorption of light, density, magnetic susceptibility, and other physical properties. Okay? These are the different physical methods. For chemical methods naman, ito ang very sa atin, very doable sa ating laboratory. So these methods involve the chemical reactions, oxidation, precipitation, neutralization to form a new chemical compound, mga ganyan. Actually lahat ito and except inert gas fusion no can be done to our laboratory. Excuse me, tumatawag lang si Ma'am Dean. Wait lang. Oh, ayan. So, okay pa ba? Naririnig niyo pa ako? Sorry for the interruptions. Okay pa?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How about sa inyo? Okay pa kayo? Are you still with me? Nasusundan niyo pa ako? Okay,
Yes, sir.
ayan. So, tumawag kasi si ma'am din kasi ano, because of the face-to-face, limited face-to-face classes, and actually all of you, even the first year, will be actually attending kasi all of the students who are vaccinated can attend the face-to-face or limited face-to-face classes. Yon. So, yon. So, yon. So we are actually preparing the documents. No, actually lahat ng programs ng Shans will be subjected for limited face-to-face classes na, and the orientation will be on February 9, Wednesday. Yun. So sorry for that interruption kasi I'm one of the committees for ano kasi doon sa face-to-face ng Shans. Okay? So, yon. So, there are combinations of either physical and chemical methods. Kaya nga sometimes dito, nakalagay dito, ang physical and chemical methods may overlap. So in addition to that, it's not only ang tawag dito, yung mga test na pina-perform natin either physical or chemical, but also with the use of mathematics. That's why in your curriculum you have biostatistics. Am I correct? Meron kayong subject na biostatistics later on sa third year or second year. Meron kayong biostat. So on that, you will be discussing the different mathematical expressions that may be used to analyze the data quantitatively, like using statistics, yan, mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation, and so forth. Yun. So that because that data or mga statistics are actually it has something to do with, for example, the correlation, the significance of which, ganon. So, pwede ring graphical representation in tabular representation and among others, no, on how do we present the result in a way that the client can understand the the result. Kasi hindi naman natin pwedeng ibigay basta-basta yung raw data sa client unless nire-require niya, 'di ba? So the only thing that we provide is the result that is understandable to the common people. Okay? Common people, meaning to say in general the society. O kasi pag mga medical churba-churba ganyan, we medtech physicians and even nurses can only understand those. So, kaya nga meron yun. Pag meron yung result, sinasabi nung nurse or yung physician kung anong gagawin, anong ibig sabihin nito. Di ba? Merong explanation of result after performing the test, and then yung, di ba, after yung test ay na-perform sa laboratory, so bibigay yun sa attending physician or even sa nurse to explain what to do, what is it, etc., etc. Correct? Are you still with me? Can I have a heart from you? Okay, ayan. So thank you so much for your response. And this is just a review of the tawag nito, yung typical yung mga analysis, the general one I presented to you last time, yung yung step 1 to 5. Although here meron ding feedback loop. Saan na ba 'yon? Ayan, yung the feedback control system or the feedback loop. Mm. Okay. So why is it hindi lang quantitative, pati qualitative din. Bakit importante itong mga ito? Of course, um these are very crucial to the for example, when we talk about food and drugs, ayan, the formulation, the testing, how what tawag nito, yung quality ng product or even the drugs. So these are actually used to measure the nutrient levels, no, for quantitative uh, analysis. Okay, mga nutrient levels. That's why we always have to look on the tawag nito, nutrient facts on certain products. Just like this. For example, we have here, hindi ako nag-endorse for example lang. O meron tayong nutrient facts sa mga sa likod or even at the bottom of the container. Ayan, andito yung mga saturated fat, no, in terms of grams, percentage, and even how much cholesterol is present here, sodium, and even the different vitamins perhaps. And even ang importante dito is yung amount ng sugar. Yan, di ba? Sa mga kinakain natin. The total carbohydrates that are present in the package or per pack, per piece. Diba? So, ganun. We have to look always, all the time. Okay? Lagi natin dapat tinitignan yung nutrient facts. Noon, nutrient facts ata nakalagay. Nutrition facts pa lang nakalagay. So, nutrition facts. So, serving size, ganun-ganun. So, we have to follow that. Kasi if we do not follow those, for example, serving, dapat itong pagkain nito ay, ang serving size niya dapat ay pang 3 or pang 4 na tao. Pero kinain mo lang yun na mag-isa. Okay? So that means that all of the total carbohydrates, the saturated fat, the trans fat, sugars, and many other components here is consumed by only one person, and that's not actually good. Diba? Sabi nga, too much or too little is bad. No, not only I am telling about health, but in general. But kaya we have to um, observe the nutrition facts or even the ingredients, kasi some of which no nakalagay na din yung ingredients na, tapos yung percentage ng product na yun, or yung component na yun, ganon. Okay, so we have to look for and we have to always observe the nutrition facts, no, kasi it provides the nutrient levels and even the accounting of dosage. O, di ba? So there are medicines that only requires na maximum of 500 milligrams for that matter, or even 1,000 milligrams ang dapat na ma-take. For example, 2 times kasi 'di ba hinahati yun, 2 times or 3 times a day, ganon. So we always have to follow those provision of dosages, mga ganon. So we always have to follow that. Hindi yung basta-bastang bumili ka ng medicine tapos without consultation uminom ka ng ganitong dosage, hindi mo alam overdose ka na pala. Although hindi very exaggerate yung effect na like yung bumubula na yung tawag nito yung bibig mo, o kasi ang bunganga is para sa mga hayop at saka bagay. Ang bibig sa tao, yung bumubula na yung bibig mo, ganyan. So, kahit hindi gano'n ka-exaggerate, but ang effect nun ay micro level or a molecular level, in the sense that the liver is actually being affected to yon, yung mga unnecessary, no, unnecessary um, drugs that we take. Like for example, sa mga vitamins, no, hindi pwedeng masobrahan, no? Hindi din maganda yung masobrahan yung level of those compounds, beta carotene and so on and so forth. No, na mga vitamin B2, B1, mga ganon. Hindi din maganda na masobrahan natin. Okay? That's why we have to follow the indicated dosage. Okay, the maximum requirement or even yung required um tawag nito, dosage No, we have to follow that always. Okay? Kaya very important yung mga yun. What else? Um, ito naman, it talks more of material science. So, kumbaga, o yan, nag-perform kayo ng qualitative test, tapos hindi pa, nakita nyo, nakokonti lang yung laman ng ore. For example, 12% of the ore contains this one. Okay? And wala nang ibang precious minerals or metals. Okay? And remember, Philippines is actually has one of the greatest resources when it comes to metals like nickel, iron, copper, ano pa yung iba? Sulfur ba yun? No, but meron pa yung isa. The lithium, sorry, that are needed for manufacturing batteries and other um, gadgets. So, yon, we have to be practical, no? Always. Kasi nga, sabi ko sa inyo last time, kung mas marami yung input, tas kokonti yung, ano, yung kita, wala din lang. So, when you are a businessman, of course, that's a loss for you. Diba? So quantitative tests are used to verify that products meet manufacturer or regulatory specifications. Here, we are pertaining to quality assurance. Okay, the quality of the products and yung mga quality assurance na ito, they confer or they confirm the specifications or the regulatory of the different regulatory bodies like FDA and among others, okay, that are used to regulate and even assure that the quality of the products that are being sold to customers are legit and even the functions of which is actually proven to do so, yung product na yun. Unless meron kasi tayo ngayon, laganap ngayon ang tinatawag nating mga, ano yung tawag doon? Mga fake products, mga copycat, anong tawag natin ulit doon? Uh, it starts with letter I. Anong tawag doon?
Imitations po.
Ayun, yon. Yes, yes. Okay, so that's imitation, yung mga imitations ng products not only sa cellphone, but of course sa mga kino-consume nating products or ginagamit nating mga topical products, lalong-lalo na sa cosmetic world, napakaraming mga mga imitations. That's why we have also to be critical. Kaya nga sabi nila, you get what you paid for. Meaning to say, kung 'di ba, 'yun ang lagi nating ina-associate, you get what you paid for. Kasi hindi ka naman magbabayad na mahal ito or hindi ka naman magbabayad ng ganitong kalaking halaga kung hindi naman assured na yung binili mo ay anong tawag ito? Quality, tawag nito, high quality. Okay? At saka hindi ka naman meron pa ring instances na mura siya tas maganda yung quality niya. Pero napaka-ano lang 'yon, anong tawag nun? Hindi 'yon very common. Napaka-rare lang yung cases na mga gano'n. Always ang mga quality products, high quality products are actually expensive. Kasi nga dumadaan sila sa mga different quality assurance tests. Yung mga products na ginamit are actually very tawag nito, tawag nito, very helpful to a specific function na yung product na yun ay ang magagawa nito, ganito, ganyan. So and even the materials, the raw materials that they use, it also depends on the quality of materials, the availability of materials, lahat yun. No, if you go back to your economy subject, no, lahat yon nakakaapekto sa presyo ng isang produkto. Hindi lang yon when we are talking about economy, yung mga yon inputs, but also how these products is high quality in the sense that yung tina-target na function, yun at yun talaga ang gagawin niya. Okay, hindi naman natin maiiwasan yung mga side effects like allergic reactions kasi um, different, we are different from each other, no? That's why yung mga napapanood nyo na nagko-commercial, like you have to use this product, you have to use that product, no? Magkakaiba tayo ng preferences, no? Magkakaiba tayo ng s- biological structure, for that matter. Yung reaction natin magkakaiba. That's why you have to be vigorous in choosing um, products. Okay, hindi porket yun ang ginagamit ng marami, maganda na din sa'yo. So it might be allergic for your part, mga ganon, or not. Okay? Mga ganon. So you have to carefully um, determine those indications. Okay, so ito yung application ng analytical chemistry with regards to environmental quality, medicine, industry, and even food. Okay. Ayan. So, siguro 20 minutes na lang to so that we can end the discussion at 10:30, and then you can continue your laboratory activity and you can start doing the personal reflection that I will be posting. Okay, so I hope that you are still with me. I hope I am still audible on your part and you can still clearly see the presentation. Can I have a heart again? Okay, yan. So, yan. So, thank you so much. So, with regards to the different processes or the different methods and even procedures that they are performed, this is actually the one that they follow. Although, itong analytical process natin, similar dito sa mga table na ito, dito sa chart na ito. Although, this is very specific kasi dito na yung method na gagamitin and even how do you acquire the sample. Ganun. So this is actually the general analytical process. Ayan. Of course, sabi ko nga, the basis of which is the scientific method. So the first one you have to think is the problem. Formulate the question. What is the problem all about? You have to always translate the general question into a specific question. Ano yun, 'di ba? The general problem, no, the problem that we are encountering, napakaraming sub-problem yung mga yon. So you have to target only one. Hindi naman, although yan, maganda sana na yung solution mo ay nata-target lahat ng specific problems. Pero that's a very rare case. Okay? You have to stick to only one specific problem or specific question that you need to answer and you need to provide solution. For example, dito it pertains to um, water analysis. Okay, how or what is the concentration of arsenic in water sample? Arsenic kasi is very toxic. Okay, so ang general question natin dito is the water safe to drink? Okay, yan. So is this food safe to eat? So you have to perform what are the different constituents, what are the different components, the ingredients, and then later on subject each of the components into, for example, allergic reaction scratch tests, mga ganyan. Diba? So, yun, very specific. Next, you have to select an analytical procedure. So in selecting procedures, you have to tawag ito, make sure that the procedure will be able to answer the question. Meaning to say it will present a step-by-step process so that the procedure or the test will actually have a corresponding result. Now, for this matter, here you can see that meron tayong consider when it comes to yung choosing procedure to measure the sample. For example, uncertainty in measurement, at mga limit of detection, you have to determine your limitations. You have to determine the limitations of the procedure that you're going to conduct. And you have to take care of the sample and availability, time, and even cost. So those are the things that we need to consider when we choose procedure. If you can still remember the one that I presented to you, yung dalawang procedure that will took 54 hours or 58 hours and yung isa 18 hours lang. Di ba? Yon, time efficient. Cost efficient din. Kung time efficient yun, cost efficient din kasi nga bababa yung or bibilis yung pag-conduct ng procedure or ng test na yun kasi nga nabawasan na ng ganitong gagamit ka ng ganitong equipment, reagents, and so on and so forth. So cost efficient din siya. And of course, the availability of the required, mga instrumentation, reagents, and so on and so forth. Okay? If it is necessary, okay, meron tayong option B dito, we will be developing new procedure that will cater our subject of interest. Okay? Although itong developing new procedure, it will also be it will always be based from this procedure or that procedure, a collection of many procedures, and then you develop a new procedure to cater this kind of sample for that matter. So hindi yun nawawala. Actually, nangyayari yun sa research. For example, hindi yung desired na result na kailangan mong gawin ay hindi naipakita nung paggamit mong procedure na yon. So, ano kaya ang pwede nating i-tweak? Okay? So, dagdagan natin yung concentration kaya kasi according sa ganitong resource naman or procedure naman, ganito ang ginamit nilang concentrations, etc., etc. So, you always resort to other procedures to come up with a new procedure. Okay, ganun. I think most of the time that happens. So, for example, the desired kaya ang din natin, ang sa analysis natin, hindi lang iisang trial. You have to duplicate or even triplicate the trials. Meaning to say, you have to perform at least twice or thrice, okay, to assure that the result that you got is yun na talaga. So you're just going to average or get the mean of, for example, the amount for that sake. Okay? Or just to confirm that there is no coloration that happens for that matter sa qualitative analysis. Okay? There's no indication that there is a carbohydrate present in the urine or in the sample. Okay? Ganon. So, developing a new procedure. So itong sampling naman sa sampling techniques, it can either be statistical or ayan, we use random sampling. There are many different kinds of sampling methods and techniques. No, you will learn that in your biostatistics later on. No, here sa sampling, this is a very general idea. You have to select representative material to analyze. But there is a required sampling, okay, in a certain population. So there is a technique. There are techniques for those. Okay? Ayan. So you have to take note that we do not have to use the entire sample. Bakit kaya? Bakit hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yung buong sample? O anyone from the class? O any idea bakit hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yung buong sample? Oh, for example, yung sample natin, isa-subject natin agad 'yon sa preparation. I mean sa test, agad-agad lahat 'yon. Ano kaya indication nun? Anong mangyayari? No, anyone from the class?
Sir,
Yeah.
para kung nagkamali ka pwede may extra pa. Charot.
Okay. Yes, tama actually 'yon. Kaya yung sinasabi kong trial kanina. 'Di ba? That's why we have to duplicate or triplicate our tests. 'Yon, perform 2 or 3 trials. Na kasi pag ginamit mong buo yung sample mo, ni wala ka nang gagamitin. Paano pag nagkaroon ng error? Human error is not actually tawag nito, laging merong human error, but we have to minimize the human error, the percentage error, margin of error, whatever error we call it, margin of error or human error, no? Ayun, kaya we do not okay, we do not use the entire sample for only one, okay, experiment. We have to have at least 2 or 3 trials. And of course, ayan, consistency in sample collection. Kung ano yung amount na kinuha mo dun sa unang trial mo, ganun din sa pangalawa and pangatlo. Okay? Kaya nga, triplicate. So, ibig sabihin yung mga yun ay pare-parehas. Pare-parehas mo din lalagyan ng kung anong reagent man yun, kung ilang amount ng reagent na yun. Ganun. So, pare-parehas yun. So, ang pagtatalo na lang doon, for example, minsan kasi magkakaiba yung magiging result. For example, when we talk about quantity, yung isa 15 grams, yung isa naman 15.2 grams, yung isa 14.9. So, ang gagawin mo doon, you have to take the average. So, yung average na yun na yung i-report natin na amount nung compound na na-detect doon sa sample, for example. Okay, ganon. Ayan, so na ano ko na din tong sample preparation. For example, dissolving the sample, um, what do you call this? Mixing the sample, no, making it in an aqueous solution, extraction. There are many different preparations, sample preparations. Ayan, and di rin natin um, dapat natin ding tanggalin yung mga uh, yun nga, yung mga species that interfere with the analysis, the compounds that are not necessarily needed for the test. So for example, decantation, ayan, filtration. So those are basic techniques, no, to separate the constituents of the sample, no. So pwedeng yung um, residue, yun yung gagamitin natin na what do you call this? Yung gagamitin natin na for chemical analysis, or yung isa, yung liquid counterpart, yung filtrate. Okay? So ganon. So removal, we have to take note of this. The removal species that interfere with analysis. Kasi once na hindi natin tinanggal yung mga ganitong compounds, for that matter, or mga ano what do you call this, mga species na ito, it may interfere with the analysis. So ang mangyayari, uulit-ulitin na naman natin to, so waste of time, waste of resources. Okay, that's why in preparation of the sample, you have to take note of the um, species that interfere with the analysis. Ayan. So these are just example preparation. Ayan. So the use of fluorescence. Yan yung quantum dots technique. Ano pa? Ayan. So how do you prepare samples for drug discovery? These are the essential questions that you need to answer. Okay. In performing or preparing the sample for chemical analysis. Ayan. How these questions are typically addressed. Ayan. Treat the animal with drug, monitor the drug, monitor the location of the drug accumulation, and even, of course, monitor the animal health. Okay, kaya nga meron tayong ethical consideration, no? Because we have to make sure that the animal health is not compromised. Although most of the experiments kasi after, di ba, hindi natin naiiwasan yon that the animal health is already compromised after inputting this kind of drug and so on and so forth. Kaya nga ang ano natin, we have to reduce the use of what do you call this? Animals for this, and even humans, of course. Di ba? So, yun, merong ethical considerations with the use of human and even sa animal. Kaya nga noon, if you can still remember the use of baby, I don't know what Pero meron yon yung gumamit sila ng baby for the procedure. Hindi man yun experiment, pero ano siya, parang psychological analysis and so on and so forth. Merong tawag doon. I just forgot, no? It's on the tip of my tongue, but meron yon yung procedure. And lately, no, with our current situation today, gumamit sila ng um, human na tawag nito, ano bang tawag doon? Ano bang tawag doon, 'di ba? Ang tawag natin is yung mga lab animals or lab rat, ganun. Anong tawag 'pag human? Human, tawag doon. Basta gumamit sila ng human. Okay? Gumamit sila ng human in the sense that the humans or those persons are exposed to COVID. If you read that news, kanina umaga ka lang yun nabasa. So they use humans to determine how we can possibly treat, no, in immediate action yung exposure of COVID-19, exposure to COVID-19. So ang ginawa nila doon, in-expose nila yung human into COVID. Okay? And then, yon, of course, monitor nila how do this, anong nangyayari, ganon. So, yun yung pinaka-late. And I think that is subjected into ethical considerations. Okay, kaya noon, kung mapapansin nyo noon, hindi pa natin timeline ha, yung mga noon, nung sinauna pa noon, that um, some of the studies are being limited, no? Kasi yon, there should always be an ethical consideration when it comes to yon sa paggamit ng living organisms, no? Life is very precious, di ba? So yon, ethical considerations. So how do you treat the animal with the drug? Ayan, how do you monitor the drug? Hindi lang tayo nakakonsentrate sa, oh, ito ang dapat maging result. So papabayaan mo na yung ginamit mong animal, for example. So no, you have also to take care of that. No, even though you are using it for ano, although yung usage naman na yun is for ang tawag nito, scientific revolution naman 'yon. So, kumbaga, it's advantageous to our society, 'di ba? So, how do you determine the drug location? How do you determine the animal's health? Ayan. So, how do you prepare samples for drug discovery? Ayan. So, titignan nila yung um, location ng drug, or even the cross-section with the use of very advanced technologies that we have today. Even though hindi natin sila ini-injure, pwede na natin ma-scan. Yan, mga ano to, mga biotechnology advancements, okay? Mga procedures, mga ganyan. So we have actually a lot of advanced procedures nowadays, and even mga therapies for that matter. Ayan. And of course, analysis. Okay, you are going to analyze the sample using the procedure that you have chosen. And then yung number 6, report and interpretation of data. You have to always interpret and report in the sense that these results and interpretation can also be understood by your clients or by the common people. Okay? And number 7, ayan, drawing conclusions. Okay? So, kung yun ang nakuha nating report or result, ano na yung magiging implication nun? Ano yung conclusion? Okay? Lagi yun meron at meron. Okay? So, that is the total analytical process. 7 steps. But other references, it may take 8 or 9 kasi meron yung mga inclusions. Although, nilagay ko na dito kasi pinagsama ko na yung iba. Sa ibang references kasi, pinaghiwalay nila like ito sa sample of preparation, tapos yung step 5, removal of the species with that interfere with the analysis, and so on and so forth. So dito pinagsama ko na siya. Okay, because I think that's part of sample preparation actually. Okay, ano pa? So itong roles naman itong mga ito, these are actually implications, no? The applications of analytical chemistry. Okay, it's not only used in science and technology to solve practical problems, but of course, it is also applied in many areas of sciences, industries, medicines, material sciences, actually lahat ng field. Okay? Just like, for example, the concentrations of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood samples, ayan, detection or blood testing. What else? Quantities of hydrocarbons. So this pertains to industry perhaps. Ayan. So environmental control, emission control. Ayan. So mga may sasakyan dyan na pumupunta sa emission center. Ayan. Those are actually um, application of analytical chemistry, no? Yung mga procedures that are being developed and validated here by analytical chemists. So kung ilang hydrocarbons, etc., etc. And even the quantitative measurements of ionized calcium in blood serum, which helped in diagnosing parathyroid diseases in humans. Maganyan. Yung mga nutritional value, nutritional facts. What else? When it comes to material science naman, how strong, how hard, how resistant it is, yung mga metals or steels na ginagamit for constructing um, buildings. O yan, yung mga ano natin, mga household gases, household materials, even agricultural products, no. These are actually, no, yung ano, this encompasses the role of analytical chemistry. Okay? Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo last time that this discipline is actually the central science. Okay? All subdisciplines rely on analytical chemistry to function. Okay, so kung titignan nyo later on, kung nabasa nyo na tong presentation na ito or yung PDF na ito, makikita nyo yung mga iba't ibang fields that are actually subdisciplines of sciences that rely on analytical chemistry to function. So this is interdisciplinary in nature, meaning to say it is a basis for other sciences to functions or other field to function. Okay, so I think that's the end of our presentation. So do you have any questions with regards to the discussion for this morning and to the discussed activity and quiz next week? So yung activity na ibibigay ko na personal reflection will be submitted on February 11. So the deadline of which is until February 11. So the quiz will be on Monday. So that is 30-item quiz. Okay, so that is multiple choice and true or false. So that will be 12 to 1:30. Aside from that, meron pa tayong clarifications or questions? Meron pa tayong questions or clarifications, guys? Wala na?
None, sir.
Okay. Ayan. So if you do not have any clarifications or questions, then may I ask all of you just to open their camera for a while so that I can also see your face. Beautiful faces, fresh faces. Ayan. O, diba? Sige na, open nyo na para ano na, para pwede na tayong proceed sa other activities natin. Or you can start answering your activities, kanya. Okay. O, diba? Ang fresh natin lahat. Para tayong magkaka-age. Diba? Ayan. Yan, sige, antayin lang natin yung ibang classmates nyo para makita nyo naman yung isa't isa. Hindi lang yung picture na nakikita natin. Oh, how about the rest? May I request to just open your camera for a while only? Ayan. Para madali akong mag-check ng attendance. Okay. O di ba napasukla-suklay tayo kahit konti. Ayan. So kaya ano, 'di ba? Okay, ayan. So with all of the things that we discussed today, I do hope that you have learned something from our discussion. And I shall see you next week. 'Di ba? Next week na tayo magmi-meet. Ayan. So thank you so much and bye.
Thank you po, sir.
Bye, sir.
Ah,
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Sir.
Sure.
enjoy your
Thank you.
weekends. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye.